lives on less than $2 a day. You're familiar with these figures. So we want to get past that and onto the hopeful part. So here's what works in my experience. And I've had the good fortune to be in the front lines for a lot of my life. And what works and what I've seen work is when there's local buy-in by the stakeholders. So what does that mean? That means that those of you who know Greg Mortensen, and he also happens to be on our technical advisory board, wrote 3 Cups of Tea. In this book, and his subsequent book, he describes he lost only one school to the Taliban. He was educating girls in an area where you just don't do that, but he had the buy-in of the local chieftains, the local mullahs, and so he was able to do this without losing but one school. So stakeholder buy-in is, in my experience, one of the most critical things to make development work. And so I think that that's the most critical thing, getting the local population involved. The second thing, I think, is it's extremely important to get women involved. Why is everybody always talking about women and look up past the sky, and why is it the global challenge of the 21st century? It's because of what we call the virtuous cycle. The virtuous cycle is that women, when money falls in their hands, they spend it differently than when money is in the hands of men. And it doesn't mean that money should not fall in the hands of men, but women will spend it on their child's education, on the child's health, and on the child's nutrition. This builds a new generation. It moves forward generationally, so that the second thing that I think that really works in my estimation is playing on this virtuous cycle of putting money in the hands of women. And some of the ways that we do it in the Weidemann Foundation are, for example, through this project with Jane Goodall, the project that we have in East Africa with the village of Niamolo. You can see this village. We have adopted this village, and we are working now, as Kelly explained, on the 3rd iteration of funding to help this village. Microlending is one of the most important, in my view, tools that we have in our, I would say, toolkit of development. And why does microlending work? Because the third thing that I want to bring to your attention that really works in developing countries is when you bring in the business factor. Now, in many cases, through microlending, you're not going to create jobs. It's not about job creation. The economies are too small. People maybe not educated enough. But you are going to have a livelihood creation. And a livelihood is something that gives people the opportunity to maybe live on more than $2 a day. Maybe it's like, in this case, buying pineapples in one of these villages and taking them into the city, or raising produce and taking it into the city to sell. So these are some examples of microlending groups that work. And there we have Dr. Jane herself. And this is, in my view, the third thing then. After the virtuous cycle of using women as partners in development, especially through microlending. And that brings livelihood to women and increases the access of women who then spend on their children. We talked a little bit about the business. There are new forms that are taking place in what we call high-impact philanthropy, and these models are often used. Christie Communications, who's one of our great sponsors and has worked with us in the past and has helped with this event, have taken leadership in this area of working with business models, clean business models. And to me, social entrepreneurship and social business is the future also. So that's something that really works. So what I think I'd like to do now is read a little bit of what I wrote and sort of some as a synopsis of my experience. I think that each one of us can create global change if we choose to look at the world's current challenges as opportunities to live from a place of interconnectedness to others and to this fragile planet. If we meld the spiritual parts of our being with heart-centered activism, we can create social and economic equality, access to resources, and peace. In these trying times, we can transform ourselves, our communities, and our world. From preschoolers saving pennies for books for their counterparts on other continents, to senior citizens volunteering in local soup kitchens, to villagers replanting forests or making bricks for their new schools. This book is full of inspirational contributions from people who are doing the most amazing things. What's happening now globally is something that I find just so encouraging. 8 years ago, there were hardly any small, what we call NGOs or nonprofits in developing countries. Now they're springing up. They've always been in India, but they're springing up all over the world in places where you wouldn't expect them. They're springing up in Russia. And so we have this enormous explosion at the grassroots level of local organizations that we can partner with. And remember when I said we need those local stakeholders? These local organizations, which are listed in this book, many of them, from Singapore, from South Africa, all over the world, there's hope. And many of these organizations are described here. Partnering these organizations with those at the grassroots level in the country is one of the ways that I think we have to go forward. So I think that's what I have to say.
I had the opportunity to get to know her over the past 5 years. It's given me the opportunity to love her, have a great deal of appreciation for the work that she's done. And Jean's inferred about my international background. For over 30 years, I've been an entrepreneur, and I was an early women's advocate. And at one time in the 90s, I held the position Commissioner of the Americas, which is sort of like the equivalent in the female world of being an ambassador. But we don't have quite those same titles, but I was women business owner of North and South America, and I interacted with other women business owners from all over the world. So I've had the opportunity to see extraordinary business women in action, and to see women who've evolved from their business hats, as Jean has done, to their social entrepreneurial hat, and now, in Jean's case, their philanthropic hat. So that's why I wanted to just say that I've watched the evolution of women over the past 30-some years, and watched the evolution over the last few years of the Weidemann Foundation. And I just want to reinforce what Jean said about the importance of local organizations, and remind you that the Weidemann Foundation is now a Santa Barbara local foundation, a local organization, very grassroots, very low overhead. You should know that Dr. Weidemann donates 100% of her time to the work that she does for the foundation, and over 90% of all donations go directly to the program. And I've had a chance to see them in action, both in Africa and here. You were each given a brochure about the organization. If you haven't been, there are more around. Stephanie can give you one. And there's envelopes also. In case you would care to make a donation, we would love to receive your donation.
Lingerie store, valued at nearly $100. And the winner is, or should I say the Oscar goes to, 874015. 874015. So who's going to look dashingly debonair in their boudoir? We have
Here you go. And if I left him a spoon. Did you do the coastal cleanup today already? You were assigned to this. Well, thank you for coming. That's so nice of you. Oh, sure. Are you going to do one for your... There's a line.
Oh, sure. Gladly. Oh, sorry. Oh, we're coming at the wrong time. Yeah, I'm pushing it forward, so dashing right when you finish speaking. So what are we doing?
These guys are doing great work for the future. They are
Okay, this
young
is
people.
actually lighting. Oh, that's good. Okay.